funny. Last week I got an email from my main contact at the city of Emeryville, and she said, "Just want you to know we're going to include a line item in the next budget for your the next or to make sure that there's budget so that they can get a buckle." But it was a joke. My husband used to ride rodeo, and like if you win, you get a victory buckle. So when the city appointed me, my husband got me a buckle. Anyway, so it's really strange. I was saying this when I came in, to be in this space in this other capacity, because I'm a retired yoga teacher. So I just want to correct all of you right now, how you're sitting. And being someone who writes poems and being someone who teaches yoga, I mean, both of those occupations have a lot of really awful associations. And so I don't know. So I thought, since we're here in a yoga studio, I'll do a few poems that are sort of loosely related to my career as a yogi. The first one's called A Werewolf, as in A-W-A-R-E, a werewolf. Let's call him Phil. Phil teaches yoga. All his students say, "My, what tight yoga pants you have." The better to do downward dog, he bows with his paws in prayer. He goes to the farmer's market to get groceries for the week. All the vendors say, "Gee, what sharp teeth you have." The better to eat locally sourced grass-fed organic meat, he says. In the evening, he sits in the park to watch his predatory thoughts, to watch the sun go down. All the people say, "Phil, what still haunches you have?" The better to do nothing with, he says. That's Phil. And so I was explaining earlier in our intermission that I spent 2 months, I did my yoga teacher training at a yoga center in Austria, of all places, in December. And they like to call the Austrian Alps the Himalayas of Europe. And so ashram life is very ordered, and the Austrians take it to this whole other level. So this one's called Selfless Service, about my experience in Austria. Selfless service. That's what they call it, but we know better. At the ashram, everyone has a chore to do. Some scrub vegetables or toilets. Others clean the altar or iron Swami's underwear. But me, I've got it easy. In my last life, I did something right. All I have to do is make the tea. So this is a poem called, not about yoga, it's called Bento. To lift the roof off a doll's house, to stuff each room with foodstuffs, to have a place for everything, to have everything in place, to pace each room on wooden stilts, to browse the house like a thief, to steal your way into the bedroom, to ponder what to pilfer first, to strip the bed of dirty sheets, to keep coming back for more, to dip the baby in the bathwater, to leave towels on the floor, to lift timber limbs to lips, to stuff your mouth with foodstuffs, to place everything you have inside your picket fence. So my last thing today isn't a poem. It's a little prose piece about, I've been thinking a lot about North Dakota lately. Maybe this time of year, it's so strange for me to have November and not have to wear a parka, and it's very, very strange. So this is a little essay about my high school life in Fargo, North Dakota, and this was a game that we played. So it's called The Negative Cutter. I don't remember when I stopped looking for her name. It was a game we played in high school. We stayed until the end of every film to see the name of the negative cutter up on the big screen. We waited patiently in the dark as the credits rolled and the other moviegoers trickled out of the theater. The negative cutter was listed toward the end, past the cast, the production managers, the directors, and all the assistants. No matter what the movie, she was always there. Teresa Rapola Muhammad. True story, every single movie. Teresa Rapola Muhammad. I swear she worked on every major blockbuster back in the 90s. I can't remember how our game began or which of my friends was observant enough to begin noticing her name, but a ritual was started, and for us it was sacrosanct. Her name sounded so exotic to us kids from North Dakota. Teresa, a saint. Muhammad, a prophet. When we saw her name roll by, we felt heady with the possession of this secret. It was like looking up someone's skirt. We knew something others didn't. Not only did seeing her name make us feel special and different, it made our teenage world feel predictable and safe. We could depend on her. She was always there. This sense of security would disappear for most of us after high school when we went our separate ways and began to experience disappointment, failure, loss, and the ugly stepchild of all those awful feelings, regret. St. Teresa reinforced our protective suburban bubble. Recently, I tried to find her online and came across an obituary in a film industry newsletter. She died of natural causes at the age of 52. In her heyday, she must have been one of the busiest women in Hollywood, with screen credits as a negative cutter on over 200 films. Toward the end of her life, she was beginning a second career as a hospice worker. Her lifelong dream, the obituary said, was to help people transition from life to death without fear, a clean splice from one great scene to the next. The name of the last film she ever worked on is Whisper. In a private ceremony held by her family, her ashes were laid to rest in a forest. I don't know if negative cutters are used to make films anymore now that everything is digital. But in my teenage vision of her, she sits in a dark room with an enormous pair of pearl-handled scissors. Her body is wrapped in miles and hours of film that resembles wild vines or snakes. She is one of the three fates, the one who cuts. She removes the negative, the opposite, the other. She takes away the shadows. Scenes no one will ever see fall at her feet like pieces of ribbon. Endless footage of awkward mistakes and downtime. So much downtime. People waiting hours, days, weeks for something, anything to happen. She sweeps them up and pieces them together into a new film, her own story, our story, where love is forever just around the corner, where heroes don't win every time, and underdogs stay underdogs, but everyone gets by just fine. I imagine in her movie, the credits roll at the beginning, as in the golden days of film, and her name, Teresa Rapola Muhammad, appears first. Thank you.
Sarah Kobrinsky. Our last reader, last but not least, Tiffany Higgins is the author of